Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan here, as we deliver you the game breakdown, the film game breakdown podcast of the Eagles' 33-18 win over the New York Football Jets. And we'll go through everything from Gardner Minshew to the running game, offensive line, and obviously the defense. You were harsh, fairly harsh, but I was re-listening to the podcast from the game. You were harsh on the defense. Good job by you. You are. It was disappointing. I agree with you.
Yeah, am I wrong? I mean,
could have been better. Could have been more aggressive.
Yes, and I don't blame the Steven Nelson thing. But we'll talk about Zach McPherson, who we haven't talked about enough. Who actually played well. I didn't see, like, the first half. Yeah, I understand the first drive. But, man, did they play soft defense. They gave up so much room again. Mm-hmm. No, I know they didn't. They played a lot more zone, which I'm just assuming that they thought something. We're going to get into the defense in a couple of minutes. They must have saw something coming in. They saw on tape. Maybe, I mean, they really got him in the second half. But I don't know, man. The first half, you know what's funny? You and I were watching the game together last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time that they've gotten down in a game this year where I was not worried. I was kind of shocked.
Yeah,
obviously it didn't go like the way you and I thought it would. Initially, I'm like, you know what? They're still better than this team. They don't have a lot of talent. They're going to wind up winning this game somehow. They just got off the sudden change on the bad coverage on the return, and eventually talent won out, and the Eagles are a more talented team, and I think better coached. But this tape is interesting. As it always happens, TV is so much different than coaching tape. We've always said that, and man, you couldn't. This is a great example of the difference between watching on TV and then finding out what the tape looks like.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned the better coach team. I know the Jets had come out after the game and said that they prepared all week for Jalen Hurts. They had no idea that Gardner Minshew was going to start, and I can only imagine them kind of sort of kicking themselves in the rear end. You're talking about a totally different offense they were probably expecting, as opposed to the one that they got, and that never helps. So good job by the Eagles who played it close to the vest, and even though it got out by Saturday night, I want to say, I guess by then it was too late.
Yeah. Jeff Ulbrich disputed that, the defense coordinator for their Jets. He said they prepared for the RPOs, which they got. We're going to get it. We'll get that when we start after the injury stuff we talk about. We'll get to the Eagles offense. The Eagles still ran RPOs. It wasn't like they didn't. They ran plenty of them, and they sure worked.
Right.
This Jeff Ulbrich, I remember him as a middle linebacker in the league, and he became a interim defense coordinator for the Falcons. He knows this defense that they're running because they're running the Seahawk defense. The Eagles had them really scouted really well. I know our friend Greg Cosell told us on our pregame show, be careful thinking you're going to get a bad defense from the Jets, because they've been playing with much more discipline, been playing well, and that's definitely true. But I just thought coming in with this offensive line, or their defensive line would play well. Their offensive line would wind up dominating, I believe they could do, and they wind up doing that. They dominated the hell out of them. And I have something funny. Someone who graded the Eagles tape gave me a Miles Sanders, which is almost hard to believe based on the way he played, but we'll get into that. Because you never know when you talk to people what they're going to tell you.
Right.
They have more knowledge than you and I do, but it's just kind of funny because you just don't know when you speak to different people every week, you don't know what the hell they're going to say, and sometimes you're like, really? You believe that? Well, you're watching it. Okay, I got to go with it. Thank you.
Right. All right, well, we'll get into that. Excuse me. I did not mean to do that. So we had our show on the Fanatic Tuesday night from 6 to 8. We got moved this past week from Monday to Tuesday for scheduling conflicts, and we really spent a lot of the show kind of talking to people, callers, and in general about the whole faux controversy of a quarterback controversy between Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew. The reality is there is no controversy. The Eagles are going back to Jalen Hurts as long as he's healthy. You and I are in agreement that that's what they should do. That's what this season is about, trying to find out if Jalen Hurts can be a long-term answer, if he can be the one to take you to the playoffs this year. We agree that Gardner Minshew is not going to be the starting quarterback for the Eagles beyond this year, so why would you just put him in for the sake of a few potential wins that would do nothing for you in the long term. So I don't want to, go get too much into that with you in this podcast. That's just how he felt. And if you are interested in hearing us talk about it more or interacting with the callers, you can go to the 975thefanatic.com website, and under their evenings thumbnail is, or where you drop down menu is where you can find the podcast of the show. They put it up and you'll hear it there.
Great
I also
calls.
wrote, yes, they're very good calls.
Really good call.
I also wrote a piece on InsideTheBirds.com addressing the situation, so you can
People
go there
loved it, by the way.
and read. Oh, thanks. So. I'm glad that they did. So we'll talk about it there.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. Explain the article.
Yeah, I just, very quickly, anybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think you have to have the right context. I mean, it seems to make a move after one game against the Jets, who are terrible, if you're just judging Gardner on one game and saying you think that he's great and better than Jalen Hurts, remember what you thought about Jalen Hurts after the Atlanta game. Everything went well. Everything was great. It was a bad team. It was an offensive game plan that was ahead of what the defense was doing. And obviously, as the season went on and more tape developed, you started to see Jalen Hurts' flaws come through. And I believe you would see the same if you played Gardner Minshew for the next 4 or 5 games. To act like he's going to be 20 at 25 and do all the great things that he did. And by the way, I shouldn't even say great. It wasn't that great. To do what he did against tougher defenses like Washington and New York, I think is not true. And also it goes against the idea that this team is trying to find out if Jalen Hurts is the long-term answer. It does them no good to play Gardner Minshew to find out that they can maybe make the playoffs with Gardner Minshew, and then what? And I brought up the Bears, right? They had Mitch Trubisky last year, didn't like what they were seeing, went to Nick Foles, didn't like what they saw from Nick Foles, went back to Mitchell Trubisky. They did make the playoffs at 8-8. And what did it matter in the long run? It mattered none. They got their ass kicked in the first round, and then they blew up the quarterback spot and brought in Dalton and drafted Justin Fields. So you didn't learn anything about the Bears for the long term by them making the playoffs last year. So that would be the similar situation if Minshew, I think, would come in and maybe make
the only difference is, but the only difference is Hurts was not a first-round pick. I don't know that the Eagles are going to learn that he's their long-term answer. To me, they're going to learn could Hurts could be their starter at least next season. I don't know if we've seen anything so far. Or what we're
I kind of meant that for long term, then, even yes, including next season, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone could say that. No matter how well he plays or doesn't play well, no matter what happens, you can't just say, okay, these next 4 weeks are going to tell you, and plus maybe a playoff game, he's the guy for the next 8 to 10 years. Which is the way. By the way, we should mention this. I asked this question to someone who's been a GM before. How do you define a franchise quarterback? He said 8 to 10 years. Because it's probably because the quarterback position has pretty good durability. Term that they get hurt, but in terms of length, you could play into your late 30s. When this guy said when he first started in the league, it was 6 to 8 years. He now said 8 to 10 years because these quarterbacks could really play late into their career. So, let me ask you this: Did you see have you seen anything so far you would say, yes, he could be that guy
for Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
No, not yet. Of course not. No. Although I do think he could. I could see him playing for whether it's 6 to 8 years on teams and, kind of doing his thing, because he's just good enough to keep you in games with the running and everything like that. I don't know that it would be 6 to 8 years with the same team, but I can see him kind of bouncing around a little bit there as different teams try to give him that chance to take that next step, because he does have that dynamic ability about him, and you're going to look at him and say the tools are there. If I can just get him to whether either see the field or just build a great team around it and live with it, I can play with it. I mean, I could see like the Steelers, or the Ravens, or a different organization that builds that way and thinks that way, maybe taking a shot there. Not the Ravens, obviously they have Lamar, but let's say Lamar got hurt.
I get it. I get what you mean. Yeah, patience.
An organization like that. Yeah. So yeah, but I can tell you, I don't see that, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite now and go against what I said in just one game, but I don't know that I would see Gardner Minshew as a quarterback a team would feel that they could build around for 6 to 8 years, and he would be
no doubt.
Be your guy. No, I think he's a backup quarterback, a good backup quarterback, and that's exactly what the Eagles have, and people should be happy about that, at least for this year and probably next, that they have a guy who can come in and win you some games.
Yeah, he signed through next year. That was a really good trade, giving up a 6. And what's amazing to me is they put the Jaguars, as I understand it, I know at least three teams are in it to trade for him. They put him up for sale. I'm going to say maybe June
Hmm.
in the spring. I don't know what Urban Meyer's personnel control didn't like about him. They brought in C.J. Beathard for the Niners, who's their number 2 quarterback. I have no idea what they didn't like about him. Gardner Minshew is a perfect backup quarterback. It doesn't get much better than him.
Hmm.
I don't know. I never understand. If you don't think he's a starter, I get that. But you don't think this guy could be a good backup? What are you looking at? Anyway.
Right. Right. Look, the NFL did a great thing, by the way, for its brand in extending the playoffs, adding an extra seed. There's no doubt about it. It's fun. It's more revenue for everybody involved. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But in the end of the day, it's also the biggest hoodwink that there is, because the 8th seed or 7th seed, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is going to be in the NFC this year, and it was last year when I talked about the Bears. It's going to be a team that is not very good. It's going to be either a team that's okay or a little below average.
Mm-hmm.
And I call that a hoodwink because now you have it forces fans to sort of have almost internal conflict. And you're already hearing it. Some people don't want to make the playoffs and rather get the high draft pick. But it puts you in the position where you might even say, I'd rather have X quarterback over Y quarterback, even though I think there's more potential out of the other one. I want the guy who can win me games now because I have a chance to make the playoffs now. And as a fan, you want to see your team in the playoffs, and you don't necessarily care about the big picture. You're just week to week. You're a fan. You want to see playoffs. Maybe something crazy will happen and you win a game, and that's fun. But it's different for you and I. I think it's different. And there are some fans who also see this way too, but it's different for reporters who are analyzing the team on a day-to-day basis, but also on a process. Like, what is your overall plan? What is your trajectory as a franchise that we have to think of? And I say getting that 7th seed in the playoffs it's a big mind screw. I mean, it's wonderful. Yes, you made the playoffs to say that in the moment, but then when you go get your ass kicked in the first round by a team that's clearly way better than you on the road, what do you have to say for the long haul, right?
Right.
Like I'm bringing up the Bears, and I'm sure there are other examples. Washington won the division last year, but for all intents and purposes,
7-9,
they were basically a 7th seed type of caliber team, right?
Yeah.
And then they lost in the playoffs in the first round at Tampa Bay, and then they started off this year awfully. And you still wonder, like, what are they doing at the quarterback position? Is Heineke really going to be the guy for the long term? So it didn't really do anything for them as a franchise other than suggest that they were good enough to win a bad division last year. And so that's why when we look at this thing and say, yes, the Eagles can make the playoffs, and it's cool if it's Jalen Hurts that leads them to the playoffs, but it's still, in the end of the day, to me, it's just about how is this team's process going, and are they building towards something better and more sustainable? Because if you're 3-8 the next year, like the Bears are now, then what the hell did it matter? It mattered not. The Bears are 3-8, right? They're terrible, if I'm not mistaken, right?
4-8, yeah, 4-8.
Oh, 4-8, my fault. Same thing. All right, then making the playoffs didn't matter. So, but again, that's the way reporters look at it. If I were a fan, I'd be like, I don't care about next year. I just want to see the playoffs this year because you pay money as a fan, you get invested as a fan, you fall in love with certain players, certain themes, certain concepts. So it's a tough balance to strike, and I respect that.
I would say this, just to interject there, what you're saying. Just from our calls from the Fanatic all season, there's no way to scientifically do a poll right now, but there have been a lot of reasonable fans where they'd say, you know what? They knew coming in this would not be a playoff team, and they might get a 7th seed. They're not going to go anywhere, as you said. Anyway, they have too many flaws, but they kind of knew this is a discovery year. I think the fans have been great. I don't sense, oh my God, they should be, with this roster, they should be 10-7. Yeah, I forget there's 17 games. Boy, they should be way better than this. I haven't heard that. I think people are pretty realistic about this team.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit of it.
Although they've crushed the coaches, but
yeah, I think story. Yeah, and when Minshew won on Sunday, I think it became a little louder. Not from, again, I think you're right. Most, I would say, if I had to put a number on it, 70% of the fans see the bigger picture here. Mm-hmm. But there's a contingent who are like, oh, you got to play the guy who's going to get you to the playoffs. And if you make the playoffs, anything can happen. And, that's the most important thing. It's not about long-term judgment. It's about making the playoffs. And that's where I'm like, I don't know about that. But, again, that's not my battle to fight. All right. So we're going to have Inside the Birds TV this week with Joe Banner. It's been a while since we spoke to him. So looking forward to having that up. That should be up pretty soon on the once we get everything done and squared away. So it'll be a good kind of taking the tone of the franchise through Joe's eyes, and he's always pretty candid with us about it. So I'll be very curious and interested to hear what he has to say about what he thinks the trajectory of the franchise is and Jalen Hurts and everything like that. So that'll be a great interview. Look for that. It'll probably be up, I want to say Wednesday, right? Wednesday afternoon, maybe Thursday morning. Yep. So we'll see.
Yeah, today's Wednesday morning, so yeah, we should probably get that up later today, maybe.
Yeah, you would think. You'd think so. You just never know.
Joe is, by the way, I can't wait to ask him. Wait to ask him what he thinks of all this running, because he's Mr. Throw the Football. It's funny. I've looked at his interviews, read his stuff from 33rd Team, and see his stuff on Twitter. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how I'll just see how he responds. I got a couple things I want to ask him, see how he handles it.
I will predict here on the podcast that Joe will say that the coaches are doing a good job of doing what it takes to win, but that this is not what the franchise should be going ahead long term. That's what I think he will say.
And by the way, he's right. But like for instance, before we move on to the tape, you're doing what you can here to help Hurts out. Plus, it's the right thing to do no matter who the quarterback is. We knew going in the offensive line would be good, but who knew? I mean, who the hell knew that Eagles would lead the NFL in rushing? After the first 7 weeks, there's no way you would believe this. But it's really remarkable what they're doing, and it's kind of fun. I do wonder how the old schoolers, people who loved the run game and never really got as much as they would have liked, though the numbers might show differently. But from a visual standpoint, you never thought of the Eagles as a running team,
right?
With Andy Reid. So I just wonder how people feel about them becoming this running team. It's something to behold, though. You got to love it. Just the way the offensive line's getting off. And I got some good notes on that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, it's been a great kind of subplot to the season in that we didn't see this coming. And
who did?
It's kind of a treat for fans in this city who still kind of cling to the run is the thing, kind of like, 80s or 90s. And when we hear that a little bit. So I think it's cool that they get to see what happens there. But I do agree with it. I think, is it sustainable? I think that's the fairest question you have to ask. Going forward, do you think they're going to run this much? Probably not. Probably not. Unless they have to. And then if they have to,
this season?
then... No, I mean beyond 2021.
Oh, no, I would agree 100%. Yeah, this is what they need to do to get by, and then you get in the offseason of Hurts as the guy.
Right.
You expand his knowledge of the offense. You give him more to do. The shame of it is, and what we talked about in week 2, they have to stop throwing the ball as much. He can't handle it. And he just the San Francisco game, then the Carolina game, he was bad. They should have come out, and boy, did Jason Avant nail it before the season started when he said that on a pregame show that they have to be a running team. And I kind of like, this is not going to happen. This is not what Sirianni believes, but that's not what Jason was saying. It's the best thing to help the quarterback, and plus with this, they've got a good group of running backs, an outstanding offensive line. I don't know if it'd be this good. It all just, you measure it, you put it on a list, you go, bing, 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 run the football. Should have done that.
Absolutely. All right, we'll break this game down first. We want to tell you about our friends at Deal Dash. It's the holiday season. Go out and take advantage of getting fantastic things, electronics, hardware, tools, whatever you need, cars, TVs, anything, kitchenware, for just the price of pennies. That's right. You can do that on Deal Dash, the online shopping platform. That's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction and website around. And some of the things you can get, we've been telling you, it's just too good to be true. A car going for $900. We've seen that. A brand new TV, less than $2. Seen that too. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want and get on Deal Dash. You can either go to dealdash.com or download the app. And when you register, enter the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, real quick, Adam. We'll get to some of the transactional news before we get to the tape
Actually, no
breakdown.
transactions,
Um,
injuries.
not trans. I'm sorry, injury news is what I meant to say. Obviously, Jalen Hurts. First of all, there's everyone. There's a bunch of guys, and Nick Sirianni kind of basically said that he's hopeful for pretty much all of them to be able to come back to the team after the bye. That includes Jalen with the ankle, Jordan Howard with the knee, Jason Kelsey with the knee, and Steven Nelson with the hip, I believe it was. And then he said, "What's that? Shoulder. You're right, shoulder." He said he would have an update on Brandon Brooks, final, because he's provided zero updates.
Yeah.
He said he would at least have an update on Brandon Brooks when they all come back.
He finally said it.
Yeah, I mean, progressing is like, what does that mean? You know, I mean,
exactly.
If he wasn't progressing after 10 weeks, I would have thought he was dead. Honestly, I mean, geez. So, I mean, yeah. And Miles Sanders, he didn't say anything. He wasn't asked, actually, about Miles Sanders, but Miles Sanders himself said after the game that he expects it's going to be all right. Obviously, C.J. Mosley landed on his ankle that he was already, aggravated a little bit. So he came out and looked like it was a lot of pain.
You saw.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. So, but I mean, this is good. Now, the thing with Jalen Hurts is, we told you on the pregame show, he had the ankle, but he was also having discomfort in the heel. It went from the ankle to the heel. There was more than just, the ankle bruise going on there. So, it's obviously his ability to drive. It wasn't just running. It was stepping. When you got step into your throw and drive off the foot was also hampered and restricted, which is a big reason why he also did not play. And 2 weeks should be a decent amount of time, but you just never know. So obviously we're going to have to wait until, I guess, I don't know if
Monday,
he'll have a press conference Monday. Yeah, will he?
Yeah,
he'll do a press conference Monday?
Well, no, what happens is when you practice that Monday after the bye,
right?
Typically a short practice, might only be an hour, but if reporters are allowed there, I don't know if they will be. They'll obviously see who's on the field or not.
Yeah.
And obviously, if they're not, Sirianni, you would hope, would speak. Typically, the head coaches, just around the league after a bye, they typically give an update.
Mm-hmm.
At least they'll speak to the media, whether he gives injury updates or not will be the key here. Hopefully, he does. If Sirianni does speak next Monday, not this Monday, the Monday after.
Correct.
The hope is that that he gives some sort of an update. It would be nice to know that, but we shall see.
We shall see. But I think the important thing was that he expressed optimism on pretty much anybody. There's no one that is going to be, it sounds like, out for the next 3 weeks or anything like that. So that's pretty good with there. And so that I think that's the best you can ask for given the situation.
Sure. And it's funny, the latest buys in NFL history are week 14. We've got 4 teams off this week.
It's been crazy.
I remember, yeah, it is crazy. I remember when the schedule came out, I'm like, you can't be serious. Week 14? It actually could. Did Sirianni address that? I forget. Did he say, that's a good thing? I don't remember.
No, he didn't. Most coaches really would prefer it to be somewhere around, week 7 or 8, like kind of halfway in between. Even if it's week 5 or 6, because then you count the preseason games and they kind of call it the halfway mark. But week 14 is really late.
The only positive thing about it is they've been, not just Hurts, they've been able to, this coaching staff in particular has been able to get a pretty good read on who the players are and who's struggling, who's doing well, who needs to pick it up. I think they've learned a lot about this roster. Whereas if you would have had an early bye on a 17-game season in 18 weeks, let's say they would have had it week 5 or 6,
right,
or between weeks 4 and 6. Look, I think we've been too early. So,
True.
Look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that we know are dealing with something. During the bye, so we'll see what happens this coming Monday. This past Monday, obviously, they were off because the players, as he said, were he did deal with that. It's funny how he said he was being asked, like Andy Reid, right? When we kick the players out, that's one of the many reasons why Andy's 20-3 after the bye. Because he has this thing: the players, if anyone who's got to come in for treatment comes in for treatment Monday, there's nothing going on. He kicks the players out. They go home. The coaches stay, I think, through maybe they leave Thursday. And it seems to work. So I'll be interested to see how the players respond after Nick Sirianni's first bye week.
I would agree with you on that one. All right, let's get into the tape. Gardner Minshew. Let's start off with the offense. Gardner Minshew, look, accurate ball, reads the defense as well, knows where to go, delivers quickly. I think you saw all of that. Not the strongest arm in the world. Actually, we've talked about Jalen Hurts' arm strength not being the best. I don't even think Minshew has a Jalen Hurts arm.
No,
to be honest
Hurts
with
got
you.
more velocity. Yeah, he does. He's got more juice.
There's just not a whole lot of torque on the ball.
Minshew has great touch on the ball. Remember what Avant said about catching fastballs from quarterbacks? Receivers hate that. I love his line about he loves quarterbacks that throw it like it's like catching a pillow. That's exactly the way Minshew plays. In fact, for those of you who play tennis, he's sort of a pusher.
Mm-hmm.
When you play tennis, you hate people who push because you have to wait for the ball to get there. Sometimes it's a detriment. Remember now was it the second touchdown that Goddard where he had to wait? It actually could have been deflected. The defenders were late, but he barely got there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the first one, boy, the first touchdown, you could see this actually off of TV. The little movement, the subtle movement to move away from the defender so he could step into the throw, that was really good. In fact, we saw that with Hurts in the Denver game when he stepped up and he actually moved.
Right.
He moved, did a great job. And so Minshew did the same thing here on that touchdown pass.
Yeah, that was the first touchdown. It was a 36-yarder.
Yeah.
There was some pressure there. Miles Sanders didn't do the best job of picking up the blitz, but you're right, he sidestepped it, threw it up there, which is nice. I like that he threw it up and gave Dallas a chance to make a play. Safety for the Jets. I think it was Ashton Davis was a little late getting over there, and so that when Goddard caught it, it's like the video game, man. Davis bounced off of Goddard's body, and he just turned upfield and ran in for a touchdown.
I'm telling you, he is. We'll get to them later, but this guy is a pretty interesting player, man. He needs to get the ball more. The thing was, and I credit Sirianni, I thought they might throw the ball a little bit more. It was very clear to me. Here's something I certainly didn't know watching the game. I didn't know they were going to come out in 13 personnel. Tyree Jackson technically started the game.
Yes, he did. He did.
They came out in 13. In fact, they played the most 13 personnel, I believe, this season.
Yep.
I have to find out, is he a good blocker? It's just remarkable to me. This guy, he's still learning how to play tight end, never played it before. We noted in training camp, we were hearing that he actually is, for a guy who never played tight end before, was not a terrible blocker.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's better than terrible. He's decent enough because he's long.
Right.
And we'll see how good he gets in a full offseason to build his body up. This Jack Stolzer, he does a good job as a wide tight end. This is the thing they've been looking for. He's doing a good job in it. And Goddard's always been a good blocker. That's a part of what we have not talked about enough. We need to, is how well they block. And the receivers, by the way, block really well in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the underrated part about this run to be the NFL's leading rushing team.
Yep.
Is how well the receivers and tight ends block. Way better than receivers in particular. I do wonder if the receivers enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're doing a really good job.
Well, the beauty for Tyree Jackson in 13 personnel is that they normally line him up next to Goddard on the one side of the line and then put Stoll on the other side of the line. So when you've got your 5 linemen, and then you've got Goddard, and then you've got Tyree Jackson next to him, Tyree Jackson is about 3 miles from the nearest lineman. At that point, all he's really being asked to do is double team with Goddard on like a linebacker or a nickel or a safety or something. And so even if he's not the best blocker, he's really only asked to attack half of a guy's midsection anyway. So he's doing all right there. It's kind of a nice luxury. You're one of 8 guys on the line of scrimmage.
And he is 6'7", 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah, 6'6", 6'7". So he just got those long arms that he can just put into somebody, and it's set up well for him.
One of these days they're going to throw to him. One of these days.
Man, there was what was it? The Giants game. He was open on a couple, right there on a quick turnaround in his own, and Jalen didn't throw it to him.
You and I were at practice together in training camp. What we saw. He dominated.
Oh yeah,
catching the football where you're like, wow, could this, had he not suffered that back fracture, you just wonder if it could be a factor catching the ball. But getting back to Minshew, Yeah, and they ran a lot of RPOs. How about this? Jeff Ulbrich, and I'm going to give the Eagles credit. Obviously, Miles Sanders has a lot to do with this. Jeff Ulbrich said they had 15 missed tackles in the game. 15.
Wow, that's a lot of missed tackles.
And Miles Sanders had a lot to do with it. We'll get to him.
Yeah.
Also with Minshew, his pre-snap recognition was outstanding. He would see what they were presenting. So I'm looking at my notes that were given to me. He's never rattled. Check down when needed. In fact, he would see how they were playing off. If the linebackers were farther back, or the defense was farther back, he'd see after pro snap in a half a second if he saw that the running back could leak out. Every once in a while, he would check down them. Yes, some of them were design screens, no question about that.
Right.
But his ability, and this is where he's better than Hurts. Obviously, he started way more games, and he's just further ahead. His ability to see what the defense is doing, that's just a guy who's played a lot. That's a guy who gets it, and that's what you felt good about. And I understand it was the Jets. You can say whatever you want, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he did a really good job.
Right.
Yeah, did a good job of seeing what the defense presented.
Yep. On the downside, I mean, a lot of his passes were underthrown. The touchdown to Gardner, the 25-yarder, was definitely underthrown.
Yeah.
There was a play.
And wrong shoulder.
Right. 3rd and 19. If you remember this play, 3rd and 19, and it was 2 shallow crosses from left to right and 1 shallow from right to left. And Quez Watkins was the one going right to left. I mean, this is literally a play that you're just hoping a guy gets you 5 or 6 yards and then you punt, right? Because everything was shallow.
Yeah.
But Quez's guy fell down. So so Minshew threw it to Quez wide open.
Yeah.
And got the 20 yards. But it actually was about 3 yards underthrown to the point where Quez had to turn around to catch it and then turn around to head upfield, or else he might have had 40 yards on that reception because there was really no defense. There was one safety playing way deep on the other side. So, again, a better lead throw. And I'm being nitpicky, of course, but I'm just trying to make
No, it's a fact. It's not nitpicky.
Yeah, I mean, we did this with Jalen Hurts, so I'm being fair. So I'm going to do this with Gardner Minshew, too.
Yep. In fact, what he has a bad habit of doing is not getting his torque. That means getting your hips into the throws. That he cannot afford to just stand there and throw it. He needs to get a little bit more body into it.
Yes.
And that's an issue for him. So they finally have tape on him, so now they could go over this with him.
Right.
And correct that. But
thought he
overall,
threw off his back
really
foot too a couple of times, Adam. To talk about like lack of torque, there were a couple of throws off the back foot.
Yeah,
that
one
he made.
Short.
Yeah. And now again, like if that's Washington or Dallas's defense, you wonder, is that kind of throw going to come back? Because we've seen Jalen do that, either throw off the back foot or do the back pedal thing while the pressure came down on him. You wonder if he pays the price. But it's the Jets, so a cornerback falls and you get a wide open crossing route on 3rd and 19 that turns into a 25-yard pickup. So good. That's, again, he did what he was supposed to do, just giving the full context of what we saw. And you had a good point about, the weather gets really cold and it gets windy. Yeah. We saw the Buffalo-New England game. So if there were ever a game where you felt like, the elements were really tough, and that could very well happen here over the next 2 or 3 weeks, it would be difficult envisioning Gardner really being able to do what he wants to do to the full. He doesn't put the ball down the field very well to begin with, but if it's really windy or rainy or snowy or whatever, I think that would also come into question.
I agree. Yeah. Totally.
All right, cool. So that's anything else on Gardner that stood out to you?
No, we covered the RPOs. The only other thing.
I did want to make a point. I'm sorry.
Way more shotgun than I expected. Holy smokes! I just didn't see that. I didn't. But they're so committed to their run game. It just, and they had to. They helped Minshew out. You're not gonna. I still thought they throw it a little bit more, but you don't want to put a guy back. That we talked about this on our pregame show last Sunday. You don't want to put a guy in there who's not worked with a lot of these guys. He's worked with Quez obviously because he's a backup technically.
Right.
You don't want to. He hasn't been here very long. This is a new offense for him. Don't ask him to do too much. And I love the commitment to the run game. I never thought I'd ever say this, but I love the commitment to the run. I don't want to say anyone could come in and play quarterback here, but when you're so committed to it and you're so dominant, which we're going to get into their O-line, my goodness gracious, it's just such an ass kicking. I don't even know what to say. The superlatives. I don't know. I mean, it's what do you say anymore? But
I know it is what it is. Yeah, it's great.
It's pretty damn cool. But they're helping your quarterback out when you run like this. yes, you're right, folks. Eventually they're going to have to throw. There'll be a game. I know there's going to be a game here where they're going to have to throw the ball more than 30 times, but we haven't seen it much lately.
One thing I wanted to mention on the RPOs that I
Yeah.
don't know if your people mentioned it to you, but I saw it, is that there were a couple RPOs that were really well defended by the Jets, and what he would do, he just tucked and ran immediately, and he didn't get a lot of yards sometimes.
Ramble, yeah.
One where he just kind of ran forward and slid, and I actually realized how smart that was, because they have cracked down on illegal man downfield. So if he throws that ball to somebody else or even tries to ditch it, it's a throw and somebody's downfield, so they're going to get flagged for that. So he was smart enough to recognize any attempt at a throw there, even if he's throwing the ball away, is probably going to result in a penalty because it's an RPO and it was well defended. So he just literally ran and slid, and I thought that was really smart. That was good stuff right there.
I agree. And then to help him, and they do this with Hurts, obviously. Unfortunately, they got caught illegally, but they run so many picks. This is like the most. I love when Sirianni said this. This is like 2 months ago or so. Within the first 4 weeks, he goes, "This guys, it's not a secret. We run a lot of pick plays." My goodness, I need to get someone to count this for us. It's just ridiculous. Some of them run. They're really good at it. By the way, the touchdown to
Gardner, the 25-yard touchdown was a pick play.
Yeah. Oh my
Boston
goodness
Scott.
gracious. They got so confused. The Jets, I didn't know what the hell to do.
It was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I got to see this. I was told, if you thought it looked good on the TV replay, he goes. My buddy told me, he goes, watch the all 22. I'm like, all right, I'll watch it.
What was the phrase Avant and Costel used? It's a painful watch, or for the Jets defense. That was a painful watch right there, because
painful watch.
They
Yeah,
couldn't have
so
played
funny.
that pick. It's not like Boston Scott is a receiver and does a whole lot of picking. You know, you're talking about a small running back and a tall tight end, and somehow they run that pick. I guess they ran it to perfection. Either that or the Jets just had no idea what they're doing out there.
But it was great. And, Boston Scott obviously was not feeling well. He barely played. Barely was a factor. But he carried that out. He had to return a kick because Rager got pulled off, as you saw. Mm-hmm. But overall, I love the game plan. Though I would say I don't like the field goals late. I mean, obviously, Elliott was fantastic. But, man, they left some points. I know it's crazy to say it, 33 points. They absolutely left some points in the field.
No doubt about it.
Execution stuff in the second half.
No doubt about it. All right, we'll get into Miles Sanders a little bit and the rest of the offense. First, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet $1 on any NFL team to score, and you can win $100 in free bets. That's right. If the NFL team you bet on scores, you score with promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And what have we been telling you about getting advantage over your sportsbook? You do it by downloading BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads to over-unders and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model, you like to do the research yourself, BetQL's got all the necessary tools for your betting research needs, from sharp data to line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to the website try.betql.co/ITB and get started by using the discount code ITB at payment checkout. You'll get 25% off their subscription offerings, and check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook for this football season using BetQL. All right, Miles Sanders had a nice game, Adam. He had to work for it a lot, and I think he proved that he can handle a workload over 18 to 20 carries. Didn't turn the ball over, didn't drop any passes, and ran tough. That's a consistent theme that you and I talk about going back to last year. Greg Cosell even talked about it, watching the tape, that he doesn't get enough credit for the tough running. People kind of take that dancing carrot and run with it a little bit too much.
Wrong,
it's not true. Yeah.
Right. Not wrong.
Yeah.
It's the tape confirms it. What would happen? Okay. Here's what I think people mean, because I know I've seen this on coaching tape. and it's happened. Believe it or not, it's almost hard to believe. So one of the here, source said might have left 50 to 20 yards on the field overall by not hitting the right gap, but it was
Yes.
still outstanding, especially considering he was playing on that bad ankle. Here are the notes from two sources: ran with tremendous velocity and power, vision, finish runs, great job setting up blocks, run to daylight, very patient, then hit it extremely hard. Never did this in 2019. It's explosive as he looked as a rookie. Greg's right because, and I believe, this is me personally, I don't know this, I don't know Deuce Staley. I believe Deuce Staley had an impact on Sanders last season. When Sanders was healthy last season, he ran way harder, and you know how hard Deuce coaches. So and Jamal Singleton's a pretty good coach. He's changed. I don't want to say he's changed his running style. It's just that he's running with more power, running through the hole professionally. It's not speed to the hole, it's speed through the hole. That's the velocity part of it. And he's doing a damn good job of it. This was a vintage Miles Sanders game, obviously the best game of the year. It's too bad. To do this on a bad ankle is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. There were two plays that really stood out to me that illustrate what you're talking about. There was one play where they were in 13 personnel, and Tyree Jackson and Goddard were to the right side of Lane Johnson, and they gave up inside penetration. The DN for the Jets got inside both of those guys pretty well, and basically blew up that pocket area where Miles was supposed to run. But he did a really good job of kind of sidestepping the DN so that he doesn't get hit behind the line of scrimmage. And then he goes straight through the hole, Adam. He went north really quickly, which is a big thing there because sometimes guys will kind of like get jittery, like, oh no, you try to reverse course, the play got blown up. He went straight through. And again, he got like 5 yards on the carry. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it could have been a 2-yard loss. And he kind of, because he went north, he got his momentum going and he fell forward to get 3 extra yards. That's how good of the momentum they had going. Yep. And then there was a crazy play later on, I think right before halftime. I've never seen this happen to Jason Kelce before. In fact, I've never even seen a defensive lineman do this before. I think it was Quinnen Williams. He kind of launched himself into Jason Kelce right at the snap in almost a horizontal way. I'm not even sure if that's legal, but he launched himself so hard into Kelce that Kelce got driven back and fell backwards right in front of Miles Sanders getting the handoff. And again, all he did was kind of maneuver his body to get around that traffic and then went straight north into it and got 6 yards on the run, which again should have been blown when your main blocker is in your lap. But that's what impressed me is that even when there was distraction and traffic, he got north as quickly as he possibly could. And I think that represents what the scout told you and what we've been seeing is that he's trying really hard. I mean, I agree that he doesn't always follow the right blocking path or scheme, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. But it's not that he's just holding the ball and his feet are going in 10 different directions. Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect at running back. You have a decision to make, whatever the play call is, but then sometimes you see if you're running back, if it's supposed to be the A gap, but you see a big hole in the B gap, you might hit the B gap. Mm-hmm. Even though that's not what you're supposed to do. It's like once the play goes, you're in real time. Right. And I think that's what this personnel source was talking about. But that's okay. He was great. Kenny Gainwell, beautiful low. Did you notice how low he got on the touchdown run?
Oh, man, I wrote it down in the notepad, Adam, because we use this phrase a lot, and I never thought I would use it with him because he's already kind of short, but and compact. He got skinny through the hole on that. That was not a wide open lane. Yeah, that was really nice. Low.
He showed progress, ran with great vision in the game, so that was pretty much it with the running back. So it was a very good game for the running backs. Mm-hmm. The line, like they always do, opens up holes. Not much on the receivers, obviously, because they didn't get the ball very much. Quez got at least one pass when the DB fell down. We mentioned Tyree Jackson, Jack Stoll, the wide tight end, going there and blocking the Eagles. The coaches really trust him. This is why he plays as much as he does. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say this with Dallas Goedert. This is what I would do if you and I were the offense coordinators or you're the head coach and the play caller. I'd say, listen, this is what we're doing. Dallas Goedert will be our most heavily targeted guy without question the rest of the season. He's a game changer. He sets everything up. Devontae Smith will be heavily targeted. Goddard is going to lead us. Wherever we want to go on offense at pass catching, if you decide I still think you should get 10 plus targets a game. If you do that, you will change their offense. their pass game.
Do you think
that's how talented he is? They just don't do it.
When you say they don't do it, are you talking about the coaches or the quarterback?
You could blame Hurts as much as you want, but whether they got to get it out of Hurts' hands. What's that?
He's out there for 75 to 80% of the snaps.
No, I get it, but here's my but being out there and getting the ball is two different things. He needs to get the ball.
When they throw it, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you can tell the quarterback when you have 5 outlets, you must throw to that guy.
Well,
I get you could scheme a play like a screen.
Scheme like this game. Okay, let me get that's a good point. This game, okay, very obvious to me. They came in saying, we're going to go after their safeties. Marcus May's out for the season. They're not good at safety. We're going to get Elijah Riley started, for goodness sake, former Eagle. A guy who doesn't play very much. We're going to get Goddard the ball. And by the way, the tape was so good, I was told. He just ran by them. He made Mosley look, he almost broke his ankles on that play. He was great.
Yeah, especially that 38-yarder.
This guy's a game changer. Yeah. I'm sorry. I asked Cosell on our show, our pregame show, I said, how good could this guy be?
Yeah.
He said, whenever I asked him over the last 2 weeks, he said he could be a top 5 tight end, a top 5 tight end if they want to get him the ball that much because he's so good. They just don't get him the ball enough.
I agree with you. I just don't know. I feel like the one thing they can do, and they did it against the Jets, is probably dial up a few more tight end screens for him because he's good at
beautiful, by the way. Yep.
Yep. But if you're facing like a cover 3 team and you can attack the seams vertically.
But over the middle, cover 3 is the whole player.
Or even the overs, right? Yeah, but I'm saying that's on, at that point, that's on Jalen then to recognize that matchup. I mean, the coach can't.
I understand.
The coach can't like draw an extra thick line around, like the play is the play.
No, and I know, listen, I know what you're getting at. They've missed Goddard open repeatedly this season. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
That's on the quarterback, no doubt. But if you have to give him on a 3-step drop, get him the football. I just think he's so good and could be so dominant if they would make him the guy. I think he should get the ball more than Smith. If they ever threw the ball 30 times more a game, maybe it'll be next year, whoever the quarterback is. He's got to get the ball. He should get 8 to 10 targets a game. That's just what I believe, but we'll see.
We will see. I imagine you're right that even if it's a different quarterback next year, someone who's a little more advanced as a passer, they're going to love having Dallas Goedert as one of their weapons. And certainly Minshew did. He even mentioned it in the
Why do you think I had him as my pregame player of the game?
You had him as a player of the game. That's good. All right, what do we got on the offensive line?
I'm sorry?
What do we have on the offensive line? I mean,
okay. So, it was – I knew this coming in. I talked about this on our show last Friday, that the Eagles had a pretty big size advantage, and boy, sure as hell showed up. They were so dominant. In fact, I didn't know what the yardage would. They get 185 in this game?
Yeah.
It sure felt like 250. Okay, so here are the notes from the people I spoke with. Double teams at POA, which means point of attack, were outstanding cohesiveness. One person told me they're so rhythmic and their footwork, their timing. They look like they played together for years. Their blocking, hand usage.
Yep.
And it's very clear to me, and I'd actually would make this argument next year, no matter who the quarterback is. They're so good running the football. Let me throw this at you because I came up with this on Tuesday, just as putting notes together from talking to people, just hearing the admiration from the personnel people we speak to around the league who look at the Eagles tape and they just cannot believe what the Eagles are doing and how great they are. No team is running the ball and more dominant their offensive line like they are. Would you consider that no matter who I know if Russell Wilson's the quarterback, Russell's going to want to throw it. But if it's Hurts or whoever, wouldn't you be more run-oriented than pass-oriented because they're so unbelievably dominant running the football?
When you say you mean more run-oriented than
a
team typically would be, right?
Right.
You're not saying like run the ball 40 times a game like they are now.
No, that's what exactly. Thank you.
Right.
That's what I was getting.
Yeah, no, I would not get too pass happy with it. Yeah, I would.
It's just, they're so great. They get off the ball so well. This guy said they were so rhythmic. I love that line and cohesive is the other thing. Their timing is unbelievable. Their footwork they're like, you hear the term dancing bears for offensive linemen. They're just so athletic and so dominant. And wait to see. If you think Dickerson is an ass kicker right now, by the way, he's playing at a very high level.
He was great on the screens too. Yeah.
Yes, on the screens. Yes, Mailata won't get to the Pro Bowl because not enough people know him around the league, and Lane Johnson obviously missed time. But you can make a case for at least 4 of them playing such an elite level, they could be all Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Just think next year with Lane coming, I would assume Lane will be back. Mailata's an absolute stud. We'll see about Kelsey. Dickerson's going to be a stud. He is on his way to being a stud. We'll see about Seumalo, what they want to do with him.
Right.
This thing is ridiculously great. They've got depth. Jack Driscoll, holy smokes, forgot to mention him, who looked like he's going to be a player. Whether he's their top backup or starter. So what do you think now for next year? What would you do?
I agree. I would try to do what, say, the Colts are doing and what the Cowboys do. The Cowboys actually run more than people think. I mean, they're like, I think 6th or 5th in the league in rushing. But they also throw the ball. So I would try to be. I'm not going to run to play hide the quarterback like the Browns are doing, but I would run or the Patriots at certain times. But I would like on Sunday night. But
Geoff wanted to kill Belichick after he's like I can't. They deserve to lose for doing this. They're setting football back.
I know, and everybody loved it. And I'm sitting here like, if I'm Mac Jones, I'm going over to McDaniels. Like, really, like you drafted me in the first round. You're telling me I can't throw 10 yards a play action pass?
Come on, man.
Adam, a 10-yard play action pass? Like, we can't pass the ball 2 times?
I remember I did this TV hit on Monday. I said, I'm telling you right now, there'll be a minimum of 60 runs in the game. And the guy thought I was out of my mind. I said, I'm telling you. Belichick, I remember, I go back to that game against Minnesota. It might have been 05, 06, 07, somewhere around there, where they might have thrown the ball 60 times. This is when the Vikings had one of the best run defenses in NFL history. So they asked him, they go, Bill, what were you thinking? He's like, why run against the wall? Why would you do that? So we just knew we couldn't run against him, so we threw it. And he was right.
Well, he was right. And unfortunately, he won that game, so he's going to look like a genius for doing that, too.
I wanted the Bills to win.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Washington's doing a really good job, and I don't know what the heck was wrong with them the first 10 weeks of the season or why they didn't think about it, but they run the ball with Antonio Gibson now.
Lately.
A lot more the last 4 or 5 weeks and have turned it around. But they still throw the ball a good amount, too, with Taylor Heinicke. It's not like Taylor Heinicke's averaging 8 to 10 completions a game. He's throwing the ball. So I would run the ball consistently next year while I'm also throwing the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's
a balanced offense.
Yeah. Absolutely. A little more balanced than Andy and Doug like to get, but not too tilted toward the run.
League, I would go, it's hard for me, and I can't wait to talk to Banner about this. It's hard for me. It's Joe brainwashed me. No, when he and I worked together at ESPN, when I got to know him really well, he showed me a lot of numbers which are just they're irrefutable. I mean, it just shows you the more you throw over time, the better you are. However, there are exceptions to the rule, as he will tell you. You could win a Super Bowl but you have to be so dominant as the Ravens and Seahawks were, because the Seahawks and Ravens, particularly the Ravens in 2000, were so dominant on defense. But in NFL history, it shows you got to throw the football. But this is so much fun to watch, and I love hearing people from other teams just they cannot believe what the hell the Eagles are doing. They not only is it unexpected, like you and I have been talking about, and everyone watching knows. It's so fun to watch if you love just something that a team is great at. There's no team better at running the football, and it's not close. Yeah, there are a lot of good running teams, and obviously when Derrick Henry's out for the season, at least for the regular season. But this is something. It's so unexpected, and it's so dominant. It's so fun because I love when all of us are wrong. We didn't see this coming, and this is so great to learn about it, and it's just great. I love it.
Definitely. All right, so let's move on to the defense.
Yeah.
We can. First, we'll remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking out all their great work at phlsportsnation.com. And on Twitter, you can follow them at phlsportsnation. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right. If you do happen to stop in, into Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. Let's talk about the defense because, hey, look, we were pretty harsh on them, and rewatching the game, it was sort of surprising that they wouldn't come after a rookie quarterback who's been struggling a little bit more. At the end of the day, they gave up 18 points though. But let's start with the D line. How did you think the D line?
Pretty good.
What kind of feedback
Really
did you
good.
get? Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that has got lost in the sauce lately, I know they're not getting a lot of sacks, but their pressure numbers are pretty good.
Yep.
Hargrave, this is the best game he's probably had in like 6 to 8 weeks. He was really good. What I said on our Monday show is, I want to see more of this. I don't know what's happened to him until this game. Like, he was really good in this game. He was pretty dominant.
Agree.
His get off was good. They had trouble with him, no doubt about it. The thing that I like about this D line is over the last, other than Hargrave to start the season, it was a pretty disappointing start for their D line in some games. But I know they're not getting the sack numbers, as I said, but their buy-in terms of gap control and not giving up the big runs. The run defense isn't great, but it's very competitive now. You can say whatever you want. Hey, this team doesn't have good running backs. Okay, they had to throw. The other team had to throw in the second half. Whatever the case may be, they're still much better against the run, and they're more consistent. But I just don't understand why Gannon did not get after it. I know that they got behind early. Steve Nelson got hurt in the first half. I get it. But I don't know why they didn't come out more aggressive. Now, what happened the second half was that, boy, the disguise really worked. And, man, the quarterback, Zach Wilson, really struggled. He didn't know what he was looking at. He's just – though he did play fairly well in the first half. He made some really good throws. He plays with with his hair on fire sometimes. Like, he doesn't know where he doesn't know where he's going with the football. And that showed up from the scheme.
You can see the arm talent is there. Remember what Cosell and Jason Avant talked about in the pregame show with quarterbacks like that who are young and have good arms, is that they tend to throw everything the same way, right? So he had a chance right before halftime, I guess, in their drive to hit the rookie, Elijah Moore, corner, end zone, wide open.
Yep.
Just threw it 100 miles per hour and it went off Moore's hands, right? I mean, that was an easy touchdown.
Yep. They showed it on TV. They showed the replay, and you could see him there. It's wide open, and the kid.
Right.
Yeah, there was a good job by Jason and Greg on that. So that was the DL. Linebacker-wise, missed some tackles.
One more thing.
Okay, sure.
As it pertains to Zach, there was I don't know why more teams don't do this, by the way, but the Jets, I liked what their concept was. They came out in 12 personnel, looking like a run, because that puts Jannard Avery on the field. Jannard Avery is not really good going backwards. He's more of a go forward type player. And they faked that it was play action, and Jannard had to cover the slot receiver because it was man defense. And I forget who. Oh, it's Crowder probably. And they had him because Jannard Avery's not good in coverage. And Zach threw the ball I think he tried to throw a hole through Jamison Crowder. And by the time, it was like one of those where you run and you turn around, quick comeback, right? Bam. It's like the ball almost gave him a reverse mohawk as it was going over his head. I thought, my gosh, if this kid just took 10 miles per hour off that pass, that's an easy completion. So it surprises me. I think the Eagles' defensive line is playing better. It does surprise me that teams don't try to come out in nickel and run, or in 11 personnel more and run on them from that formation, because that makes the Eagles come out in their traditional 4-by-2, four linemen, 2 linebackers, instead of having Jannard Avery on the line as a 5th. And when you come out in the traditional nickel 4-2, and that way you can get your double teams going up front if you run out of that package, right? Because you got 4 defensive linemen and 5 offensive linemen, so the center can help out one of his guards double teaming. And that's been kind of a good way to run on the Eagles this year, even with TJ Edwards in. And I was surprised the Jets didn't do that more.
Yeah, so on that, Avery's an on-the-ball guy, so he made some plays in the run game. He had some good plays, but at linebacker, they had some plays where they overran. Tevin Coleman had some nice runs, but they got behind, so they couldn't run it as much as they would have liked to. Overall, front 7 did a good job. Alex Singleton was everywhere as he normally is. He's having to start now. They did a decent job in coverage at times. Weren't perfect. DB wise, obviously they got off the bad start. The thing that I don't understand, I don't know if it's because of Nelson's injury. They still played a lot of zone, where they've been playing a lot of man. But this game, they played a lot of zone. Gave up too much room early. You could see that off TV. Actually, something you can't see very much on TV. That's
Right.
legit, but you could see this off TV. They were playing off. They gave up too much room, and then second half they made some adjustments. And boy, Wilson looked confused. He looked like a rookie quarterback that shouldn't have been out there, and they shut him down the second half.
Right.
Oh, Zach McPherson played really well. I don't know how they grade, but I just know I was told that he played well. And I think didn't Gannon talk about him in his press conference?
I don't remember that. He might have. I may have missed that one.
Yeah, he didn't hurt. In fact, he didn't make very many mistakes. Moved well. The knock on him for personnel people is, again, it depends who you talk to, but the people that I talked to pre-draft and post-draft about him said he was a little bit stiff in his movements. And he's a really smart kid, good at recognition, but not the greatest athlete in the world. But he moved well in this game, didn't make a lot of mistakes, really showed in this game. He really showed up. Best game as an Eagle, and that's a good thing.
All right, cool. Hey, can we quickly talk about the Ryan Griffin touchdown that put the Jets up 18-14?
Do it.
Before the halftime. I don't know if you had a chance to get any feedback on that, but pretty clear just by watching the tape. Busted cover. 3 guys, 2 linebackers. It was Singleton, I guess Edwards, and Anthony Harris all wound up covering the running back.
Yeah,
Coleman runs a Texas route. A little bang. It's at the 5-yard line. He runs a little Texas route into the end zone, and 3 guys are on him, and Griffin just runs the square out, and he's wide open. It's
wide open.
Like we're in week 13 here, fellas. Like this is the Jets. How do you have 3 guys covering a running back on a Texas route and leaving the tight end wide open?
And nothing to do with the Jets. They just made a mistake.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, what are we doing here? Week 13.
They just had a bad play. But the second half, they did their disguise was so good. The kid had no idea what he was doing. And then Marcus Epps was really good.
Yes.
His movement, like he's a way better athlete than the 2 starters.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I wonder next year. McLeod's contract's up, I believe, right?
Yep, both of them, McLeod and Harris, are on 1 year.
Okay. Wouldn't you give him a chance to start?
I would give him a chance to compete to start.
Yeah, I mean, compete. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds you're going to get 2? First of all, these 2 guys are probably not going to be back, McLeod and Harris. So what are the odds you're going to get 2? You're probably going to sign a safety. You're probably going to draft a safety. Yeah. Not in the first round. What was my favorite? What was my line the other night on the Fanatic? I said there could be 32 Kyle Hamiltons in the NFL draft, and the Eagles will just trade down until they're out of the first round because they're not taking a safety in the first round. Right, but maybe you brought up a good point. Maybe with the 3rd pick in the first round, which is almost equivalent sometimes to a high second round pick. Maybe
third pick in the first round. Yeah.
But that won't be Kyle Hamilton because he's going in the top 10.
I just, and we'll see who declares, by the way. But we'll get in the draft next month for sure because I'll be at the Senior Bowl. I'm not going to the East West Shrine game this year because it's in Vegas. But
right.
Hopefully,
you're right. Epps gives them kind of the guy who's, like you said, the movement. He is the type of guy who can play the deep. He can come in. He can probably move to the nickel a little bit. Yeah. Saved a touchdown on the kickoff return, by the way.
Okay.
He was the last line of defense on the kickoff return to start the game. And he saw the angle just well enough to be able to kind of duck in and out of the guy trying to block him, and was able to stop. Was it Berrios?
Yes.
Before that thing became a touchdown. I mean, it became a touchdown anyway, but it's still it was a nice job.
When we're at the Senior Bowl, I'm going to be looking at safeties. They got to get
good luck.
Wallace is just I don't see it with Wallace, and I haven't talked to anyone who said he's going to be starting next year. So they got to do something at safety. The game now has changed, man. It's not okay. The strong safety is here. The free safety is deep. He's a post safety. It's not like that anymore. There's interchangeability here. They've got to invest in safeties. And Epps has really been a good find for them. You were on him 2 years ago, man. I remember you talking about him.
Had a really nice training camp. Had a really good training camp. Yeah. He's got quickness. He's got athleticism. And it's disappointing because you would have hoped that Kevon Wallace by this stage of his second season would be on the field more than just special teams. But he's just they haven't seen the physicality out of him that they saw in college, and they're the guy talks a big game. I mean, you're doing joint practices and you're getting on Cam Newton and, and going back and forth with him, and you can't get on the field. So, I mean, I don't know. It's too bad. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Look,
He'll be back next year, though. I'm sure they'll give him another shot.
Yeah, no, he's definitely be back next year. He'll either be restricted or exclusive rights free agent, but overall.
No, I'm not talking about Epps. I meant Kevon Wallace will be back.
He's on a contract. He'll be in his third year.
Right.
Overall, look, they got the job done.
Yep.
Crazy start. Cannot believe the amount of points in the first half. It was actually fun if you like offense, but if you're an Eagles fan, you had to be scratching your head. But they won. They beat a bad team.
Yep.
That had every now and then has been pretty competitive when you never at least expect it. I.e., the win over the Titans. But overall, they won. They headed into their bye. We've got some great content coming up. We've got a new concept for our bye week shows. We've got some really good stuff coming up here. Looking forward to getting to that banner, and we got a couple of ITV TVs with some ex-players we've never talked to before. I got one in our little bank here of ex-players that we want to get with, who I think will be phenomenal. So
cool.
See what happens.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Thanks, as always, to our producer, Hunter Brody. You can check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. He's got a website called broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.